Good morning, folks. Just after 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and I'm making my way a short distance back down onto the Camino route, which goes along the seafront. So there's all this expo area that I'm walking through. It's quite a built up sort of business looking district. Nice apartments, nice office buildings, all the money. I think I prefer the older, grungier part of town, but it is so far looking like a beautiful day. I was waiting until after sunrise to head out. Just thought it was a little bit warmer. It was quite cool last night. It's quite chilly this morning. I might have to put my rain jacket on just to keep some warmth in. And out of the shadow of some of these buildings, there's quite a breeze. You can see the flags blowing. They're not really hanging too low. A lot of movement in the trees. So it is quite windy, and that's quite chilly. So gonna hopefully find a sheltered part soon enough, though a lot of today's walk is along the estuary front on a boardwalk. But let's see how that goes. At least it's harder to get lost. But I think by the time it gets to about 10 o'clock, I'll be looking for a second breakfast. So that'll be the challenge. It's a really big building. It's actually a hotel. Told you it was fancy. Vasco da Gama Tower. Incidentally, just mentioning that name, if you're going along this route and you get past the park, there's a shopping centre called Vasco da Gama off to the left of the route, where, as I was saying yesterday, the selection of food choices is unbelievable. It also has an electronics store in there, supermarket, and quite an extensive supermarket. Electronics store, so if you're using cameras or video equipment and you run out of something or something breaks, it's definitely a good spot. Like, this is a nice day for walking. Like, it's not too hot. And this is the view. that was the first sign that I've seen today, really, for the Camino route. Now, granted, I'm not on the older Camino routes, which are on some of the maps, but the new way that they direct people is along the boardwalk, which isn't signposted anywhere, but it's that Pope Francis one, and it runs all the way past all the towns, all the roads. You've none of that. It's just boardwalk. Right. In all honesty, the first section of boardwalk is in pretty bad nick. There are a few loose boards. Didn't always feel that safe, I must admit. But the Papa Francisco part, Pope Francis part, which is from 2020, is in really good nick. Really stable, really sturdy. But because you're on a boardwalk the entire way, there is no support. There's nowhere to have a coffee or something to eat. So you need to have brought food and drink with you. Other downside of the boardwalk, it's very exposed. So on a day like today, where it's very windy, thankfully I'm in the shade of a factory here beside me, but otherwise it's extremely windy, and any seating that there is, the limited seating that there is very exposed. So if you're sitting down in that wind, which could be very welcome during the summer months, but it's not exactly boiling today, and a wee bit of shade just to have something to eat without worrying about stuff blowing over would be nice. But I'm going to keep going. There's a lot more people about now that I'm getting back to clearly more built up area. Just had my first interaction with two other pilgrims. It was a crisis of map following. One of the guys, I want to say he was Canadian, but he didn't say A or anything, but it was a softer American accent. Was starting to walk back the opposite direction, querying the maps and how they didn't link up with the ones on his phone. which is, I dare say, the problem at the moment. There's a new route which hasn't been recorded on maps, and everybody's starting to lose faith, walking back on themselves and going, no, this isn't the right direction. But they do meet up. And as I was pointing out, this route that we're on at the moment is supposed to take us right through. I think it's like this path's about 22 kilometres, but it's quite off from the towns on the other side. There's like a military base here, but it does join up in my pronunciation. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know isn't always the best, but I'm going to call it Alhandra. I think that's the town. And from what I can see, this sort of pathway will sort of link in at Alhandra, where it becomes quite narrow, but I think you can follow it on out past there. So if I stop in Alhandra now for tonight, then I'll probably join back onto this tomorrow. But the guy was walking back the way and then stopped. The guy that was dressed in all in black from yesterday, he's in all in black today again. So he stopped and questioned him, and the two of them were on their phones looking at maps. But I think I've convinced them that as the little Camino signs keep on referring to it, they don't refer to the Caminho de Fátima or the Caminho de Santiago in the text. They refer to the Caminos of faith, and this right now, whenever it doesn't match up with your maps, is a Camino of faith. Trust that the map is not updated yet, and you're going to get to where you need to go. So I believe that there's maybe 4 pilgrims behind me. I've seen another girl walking back as well, and she wasn't dressed like a day walker, she was dressed like she was doing the Camino too. So going to keep pushing on and hoping that they're not following me at this point, because if it's wrong, I'll get the blame. If it's right, they might just say thank you or nothing at all, because they're trusting the same thing I'm trusting. Faith in the Camino delivering as it does when you need it to. So about another 10 kilometres to go or so, roughly. So, after all that boardwalk stuff, it comes to an end at railway tracks and all the signs disappear. There's no signage whatsoever. So unless you have your phone to track your maps, then you won't be able to find your way. As I say, no signage. Not a directional anywhere. So thankfully I was able to check my phone. I can see where the normal Camino route, the older Camino route, actually is. So I'm heading back towards it. I don't think it's a wise idea to walk along the railway. I also, for a while there, it was a wee bit more shelter so I could put my hat on, but it's picking up again. And it feels like it might fly off. But yeah, hopefully can get back onto the Camino path and then maybe stop for a bite of lunch, something a wee bit more substantial, rest my hips and my bum cheeks for a bit, and then keep walking on. I also need to try and book somewhere to sleep tonight, which haven't seen that there are other pilgrims walking. I don't know where they're staying, so it could be the same place that I'm thinking of. They could be walking on further, but I think if I make it to Alhandra, then I'll be doing well today. Back into suburbia now. I know they have the signs on this side of the road, but really this pavement cuts out in about 10 metres, and then you're probably walking along the road, which isn't ideal, and it's quite busy for Sunday. So I've stopped here in Alhandra for the night. Clearly the first one here. This is La Familia, so it's quite central in the town. There's a restaurant just across the street. There's a bakery, cafe just round the corner where the town centre is. It's very quiet at the moment. This is a nice modern hostel. They do have windows out onto the street, which we'll pull them later on tonight. I'm sure nobody wants to be sleeping with people looking in, but yeah, it's quite nice. It was 20 euros, so quite reasonable as well. I now need to wash some clothes and get some stuff sorted out, batteries charged, and try and figure out where I'm going to walk to tomorrow. Yeah, I think getting a shower, getting my clothes washed, hung up somewhere to be dried is probably my first protocol, and then try and get my feet up for a bit. I'd also go and look and see if I can find water somewhere. It's a Sunday, not many places are open, so it could be a bit of a tall ask. And if my legs and feet feel alright, I'll go for a wander around the town as well. I haven't been able to fly the drone today because of the wind, which along that coastal walk probably would be ideal. But I was speaking to one of the other pilgrims, the guy all in black. He's from Switzerland, but he felt the same about the walk, that it was great being away from the traffic, but with no shops, no cafes, no food or anything along the way, you were a bit left to your own devices. Though it probably was safer than walking along the road. The road was, the pathways on the side of the road are not good at all for pilgrims, but which would you prefer? Nice and safe on a boardwalk, or food and water? If you haven't got it on you, you're probably going to risk walking along the road, just in the off chance that if you need something, at least it's there. Along the boardwalk, there's nothing. So yeah, gonna get myself washed and dried and go for a rest.